My name is Chris Winter. I'm Executive Director for the Conservation Council of Ontario. I conserve. My energy consumption, my electricity consumption at home, a family of four, is last bill it was 250 kilowatt hours a month, average. Thank you. We've been hitting an average of around 300 kilowatt hours, but we made the extra effort and air dried our laundry, and beautiful racks from IKEA that fold out. They're wonderful. The average consumption is about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. That means to me there is about 75% waste in the system. So the capacity for conservation on the electricity side alone is huge. To talk about a 40% reduction in electricity demand in the residential sector is totally attainable. But what we need to do is ramp up the efforts to get there, and that's what I'm going to talk about. How do we create a conservation movement in Ontario? We have stretch targets that we put in place, and we're going to be promoting these to go on top of what the province is doing and saying they will do. Those are the minimum targets, and they admit those are the minimum targets. Well, we want the push targets. We want the targets that says, if we're all in this together, what do we think we can achieve? The ones that are relevant on electricity are, by 2012, Kyoto deadline, we want the average electricity consumption in Ontario to be 750 kilowatt hours a month, down from 1,000. By the year 2020, we want the peak load to be 20,000 megawatts, down from the 2,700 or 27,000 that it is now. By 2012, we want 5,000 megawatts of renewable power, and by 2020, we want 20,000 megawatts of renewable power. And if you were paying attention to 30 seconds ago, that 20,000 megawatts of renewable power is the same as the peak load for electricity. So we should be aiming for a system in Ontario that is essentially powered by renewable power by 2020. Thank you. Now, how do we get there? The first thing we do is what we have been doing traditionally. We push government. We say we want more. We want you to lead. But we're also at a transformation now. And the second thing we have to start doing is helping that change happen ourselves. What we're seeing in conservation and the environmental sector is the same we saw in feminism, in civil rights. A time passes where suddenly the government and society realizes that what these outlandish advocates and radicals were saying is actually true. And it's accepted now. We've hit that point. We've hit that tipping point. There are 12 million consumers in Ontario. There are also 12 million conservers. We have an over 90% support of people that say strong support for conservation. We know people want to conserve. So it's not a question of standing up and saying conservation has to be the priority. It is. It's now a question of saying, how do we help people become better conservers? We are all consumers. We are all conservers. We need to become better conservers. How are we going to do that? We're going to help them. We're going to talk about social and cultural transformation, the transformation to a conserver society. Does that sound familiar? That was back in the 1970s. They were talking about a conservative society. Well, dang it, now we have the ability, we actually have the tools to make it happen. Ever since 1990, after the Brundtland Report, every new environmental organization just about that started up was a service delivery organization. Green Communities, Evergreen, AutoShare, it's actually a company. And they hung around because there was enough demand to make it happen. The public demand was starting at that point. What's happening now, how far am I? 2 minutes? Okay. What's happening now is there is that wedge of demand. I like to say the conserver economy is about 5% in Ontario, plus or minus 5%. Our goal is to make it 50% plus or minus 5% by 2012 or by 2020. The way we're going to do this is we're going to look at an exponential growth in conservation. What they've given us now, we're going to suck up and use in the next 2 years. And we're going to create demand that goes exponentially rising, that in 2 years' time, What they put out as the conservation plan and programs and support measures are going to be double, triple what they are now. And in 4 years' time and 5 years' time, when we're getting to the Kyoto deadline, we will be in place that they're going to be 5, 6, 10 times higher than what they are now because the public demand is there. So the first thing we have to do in the next 2 years, folks, is engage everyone in Ontario. That means we're really talking about a conservation movement. The second thing we have to do is show progress. We have to show that people are actually picking up on all these subsidies and programs and doing it in their homes and changing and cutting back. And the third thing we have to do is ramp up exponentially so that by year 4 and 5, we are really achieving the Kyoto goals and beyond, the stretch targets. The change is going to happen in year 4 and 5, folks. How are we going to do this? Well, I can serve, you can serve, together we can serve. And that's the campaign that we're rolling out that is going to help everyone acknowledge and understand that we're all in this together. We can serve. The beauty about conservation, it is one of the few movements in the environmental sector that you can actually conjugate. I can serve, you can serve, we all can serve. I have zero footprint. I sustainably develop. It's great. It all means the same thing, but at least what I know the public out there says is, I can serve. Let's build on that. So here's what we've got rolling out this summer, and hopefully with their support, and if not, we're still rolling it out anyway. We want to have every business, every store in Ontario, every home, every business, every office with a We Can Serve pledge. Tell us what your commitment is. We want stores to have it displayed in their window or a sign that says We Can Serve, backed up by their commitment to conservation in the store so that consumers can go in and say, what's your commitment to conservation? What's your internal commitment in your processes and your energy conservation, waste reduction? But what products and services are you selling that I buy that are conservation ones that will help me become a better conserver? And the third thing is, what's your support for conservation in the community? We actually are going to get this off the ground because we do have the support of the Canadian Retail Council. We have the business improvement areas across Ontario that all see this as positive marketing for their businesses, for their members. Positive campaigning is the way we're going to do this. Okay, we also have 18,000 community groups, at least, all across Ontario. 40 per community, 400 communities. We're going to organize those into community action plans and community networks. We're going to get the municipalities to help those groups become part of the conservation solution, delivering the engagement, the conservation pledge to every home in Ontario, and the support services that's going to help them become better conservers. So all these things are going to roll out. If we do this, the beauty of this is the force that is going to come to bear on the politicians, it will be unstoppable. Because what they're doing now is they're rolling out their conservation commitments and they're hedging their bets. They think this conservation commitment is only skin deep, that it's going to disappear with the next crunch that comes along or the next video player, the next high definition TV, it's going to disappear. What we have to do is make them realize that this is a deep, deep movement, that it has legs, and they have to listen